Hi everyone, my name is Fiona and I'm from Hong Kong, and today I would like to share the story of how I became a Christian and how I came to faith. So I grew up with a non-Christian family. My mom, my dad, and my younger sister, we are all non-Christians, although I have aunties and cousins who are. But when I was young, I did go to a Catholic school, so I learned to memorize the Lord's Prayer, the Mary's Prayer. We learned about Bible stories, but Jesus was just a person in those stories. I didn't actually know he was, alive, and I knew that we can pray to him, but that's about it. So I didn't really have a relationship. And I would say in my childhood, I did have a happy childhood, but looking back now, I grew up in a culture where we learned how to strive for ourselves. We didn't have God, so we would just rely on ourselves for everything. And when I was 16 then, at the time I was studying in a boarding school in the UK, but I went back home for Christmas, and one of my closest cousins, she invited me to a Christmas service. And during the Christmas service, I remember that the worship songs were modern, so I was able to actually understand, and I remember there was a testimony sharing that Jesus answers prayers. So that stuck with me. And a few months later, I went back to the UK, and my mom called me and said that my grandfather from my dad's side, my Yeak, he had been a long time smoker. He had really bad lungs, he had asthma, and he had a hole in his lungs. And the air was coming out into his body, going between his skin and his blood vessels, and he was puffing out like a balloon. But because he was so weak, they couldn't operate on him. So my mom just called me, giving me like a warning, prepare for yourself then, because the only way he would heal is for his lungs to somehow mend themselves. And at that time, I didn't know what to do, but I remembered that Christmas service. So I prayed to Jesus and I said, if you've answered other people's prayers, Jesus, please answer my prayer, please heal my Yeak. And then I think it was a day or two later, my mom called me again and said, somehow my Yeak's lungs had started to heal by itself, and the air is starting to come out now. He's still weak, but he was going to live. And then, so he healed, and he went on to live for a few more years. And at that time, I think I may have shared it with my mom, but because at that time there's no social media, there's no WhatsApp, I couldn't actually just talk to anyone easily, but I kept it in my heart. But also because during that time, it was a boarding school, I don't get to do what I want to do on a Sunday, I don't get to choose the church I would go to, so I didn't have a tangible way to pursue my faith. But that was something that I kept in my heart then. But I must have forgotten it, because a few years later, I was doing my A-levels, trying to get to uni, and it was a year where I felt very lost. I felt like it was a big year, and in the Hong Kong culture, it's very success-driven. You need to go and be a doctor, be a lawyer, be something that will make your life fantastic, very, very success-driven, very stressful. So I was really lost because I didn't want to go for all of that. And in the end, I did find a program I wanted to study in one of the top unis, but I missed my grades. So at that time, I felt like my life was over. I was maybe 18, and I felt like such a failure. I wasn't able to study well, and now I would disappoint my parents, I disappointed myself. I don't know what to do. So my friend taught me, write a letter to the uni and tell them. And I still remember the words I wrote. I will do whatever it takes. Give me another test. I will prove that I qualify for that program. I will prove that I can excel in that program. But the school didn't reply me. So I just dragged myself to a backup uni, registering for a program I didn't want to study, and just thinking, okay, now what? And one of my aunties from Canada, she called me, and she said, Fiona, I know what happened. I know you must be feeling so down, but don't worry. Jesus is here, and we can pray, and I've been praying for you. And she's always been like a mother who prays for me. So at that time, I just felt like I was in a room of darkness, and the light lit up. Yes, of course I can pray. I prayed a few years ago, and my Yeak was healed, and I'd forgotten about it. So I prayed to Jesus again at that time, saying that, Jesus, if you let me back into that program, I promise this time I will do my best to get to know who you are. And a few days later, the school emailed me saying, you're welcome to come to the program. You don't need to do extra tests. You're accepted. Just come. And I felt like I had a second ticket to life. And that was sort of the turning point where I felt like although Jesus has been walking with me throughout my life at different times, that was the time that I really decided I will commit to the Christian faith. And there's no time to share, the journey on, because what does it mean to be a Christian, all of that. I took time to find out. I took time to find out who God is. But one thing I learned early on, as I was on the faith journey, that God is there when we lose hope, when it seems like in the darkness we have no one. He is there, and we can call on Him, and He would not abandon us. But also, He's not just a genie, like from the land. Whenever we need help, we just ask Him, and He will just grant all our wishes. He's also not a God like the other gods in the cultures where you offer something and He will always give you something back. That was my experience from my answered prayers. But later on the faith journey, I learned that yes, He can answer our prayers. Yes, He wants to give us the things we want. But more than that, He wants us to know Him, to get to love Him. He wants to know me, and I get Him to know Him. So I'm so glad that He's not the transactional God. He's actually a relational God, and now I have a relationship with Him. I'm so glad He chose me, and He chose my family, and I'm glad to share. My dad is also a Christian now. He's also baptized. We're still praying for my mom and my younger sister, and I have faith that they will also come to get to know the Lord in God's timing. So this is my story, and I hope it encourages you today. Thank you.